Now let's discuss that further with Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist joining us from Bristol. Mr. Gosling, welcome to
Hi.
the program. It's great to have you with us. I wanted your initial thoughts on the recent Yemeni retaliatory strikes on Israeli targets.
Well, look, there is a major problem here for Israel, and that it's actually called maritime insurance, what they call war risk coverage for shipping vessels. So we've had two this week: the Magic Seas, Eternity Sea. I mean, these are large vessels which are now being sunk by the Yemenis. They're being what you would call probably humane about it. In other words, they're trying to make sure the crew are safely taken off the ship, allowed to leave before the ships are sunk, or maybe before they actually go down. So this is a problem for the Israelis, and they have a serious trouble in that what's happening is, of course, because of modern communications and technology, it's very easy for the Yemenis to see what kind of cargoes on these ships, what their destination is, etc., etc. And so they can pick out the ones which are heading for Israeli ports and just sink them if they want to. This is I think one of the best ways of dealing with the genocide. It's something which really the United Nations should have implemented through either the Security Council or the General Assembly to put sanctions on Israel to say that you cannot trade with the Israelis, because obviously there will be a lot of equipment on here useful to Israel. And so it's being left really to the Yemenis to do what the United Nations should be doing. And I think they can hold their heads up proudly about what they're doing is putting economic pressure on Israel, and actually possibly military pressure if there's military items in these ships, for them to stop the genocide. Nobody else around the world seems to, even the massive mighty Chinese empire, I raise my eyes to heaven, seems to be doing absolutely nothing and using none of its might to stop what's going on. And anyway, so the point here is that this is exactly the similarities between the Northern Irish conflict, and it's not surprising that the Irish people are so sympathetic with the Palestinian cause, because they can see a similar kind of thing. The Anglo-Zionist empire, as it was back in the 1970s, 80s and 90s, and all the way back hundreds of years in Ireland, is now venting its wrath upon the Palestinians with a new toy to play with in the Middle East, that is to say the state of Israel. And they had the same problem exactly, because the IRA were blowing up buildings, big buildings in London and Manchester in the 1990s to force the John Major Conservative government in Britain to negotiate, which eventually they did. And then there was a ceasefire deal in Northern Ireland called the Good Friday Agreement. I think it was 1998 that was signed. And so they had the same problem, is that the City of London could not get insurance for the war insurance and the terrorism insurance. And so they were going into a massive panic in the insurance industry. Oh, no, we can't cope. And this is the sort of thing, economic pressure, which will force either, whatever it be, the United States or Israel to the negotiating table.
Definitely. Mr. Gosling, how much economic pressure is this really placing on Israel? And could this maritime campaign of Yemen gradually undermine investor confidence?
Well, it's already doing that, I think, but it's got to be done from all sorts of different angles, it seems to me. Quite clearly, the objective is to stop the killings and the attacks by Israel. But look, you can look at the other side. That is to say, get humanitarian aid in, get that aid in, get aircraft, airdropped aid in, water in, all these things that the Palestinians need. Breach the walls, make sure that there are facilities for the Gazans outside their area if they want to leave. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, it is horrific what's going on. The idea that the people who have been living there for thousands of years are being told to leave, and these new European Israeli settlers are coming in and saying this is our land. And so it's also by helping and relieving. But, you know, there's only one way, I think, to stop this particular conflict, and that is to say a peacekeeping force, an armed peacekeeping force by the United Nations. And you can, in a way, see that the great powers must be looking at this and saying, maybe we should just go around the United Nations. Maybe we should drop some special forces in. It'd be nice to see the British special forces go in as a peacekeeping force and put the Israelis on their tail. But it's more likely, I think, to see the, maybe a Russian or a Chinese force. Someone has got to go in there and defend these poor Palestinians. It's absolutely not on to have air forces, satellite technology, and tanks and armies used against civilians, which is what's going on right now.
Exactly. Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol. Thank you for your time tonight.